Hello everybody and welcome back. We're looking at question 5 in this video on our 2016 Euclid paper. So what do we got here for A? Charlotte's Convenience Center buys a calculator for P dollars, raises its price by N%, and then reduces this new price by 20%. So 20% of the new price. If the final price is 20% higher than the original price, what is the value of N? Okay, we want to try and be organized with this, so I'm going to figure out the prices step by step. So I know we start with P dollars, and then we have a new price. We raise by N%. How do you raise something by N%? You multiply by 1 plus N%. Percents are measured out of 100%. So this is sort of our new price, or our raised price, whatever you want to call it. And we can simplify that. I'm going to drop the percents and the dollar signs. I'm just going to say this is P times 1 plus N over 100. Okay? And then we get sort of a newer price, or a reduced price, and we say they drop by 20%. So reduce this new price by 20%. How do you reduce a price? So here's what the price was, reduced by 20%. So you could say it's 20% of this subtracted from the total. I find it's easier just to do this calculation, 1 minus however many percent, so 20% out of 100. We might call that the newest price, or final price, or reduced price, whatever you want to call it. But we're just trying to keep track. This was its price, then it got a new price, and then it got a final price. And we know how this relates to the original one. We're told it's 20% greater than the original price. So this is 20% more than the old price. Now I can see the price P didn't really matter at all. Just divide by P on both sides. Okay? And so what can we do? We got 1 plus N over 100. And then we could say, well, put everything over 100 actually. Might be easier for us. And then 100 plus 20 over 100. Okay, so we could multiply by 100 on both sides. That might help things out a little bit. 100 plus N over 100 is 80, and that's equal to 120. Basically, I got rid of these two hundreds down here. So multiply by 100 again. I'll get 100 plus N times 80 is 12,000. So 100 plus N is 12,000 over 80. I'll just grab my calculator real quick. 12,000 divided by 80 is 150. Subtract from 100 from both sides. N is 50. So originally we raised by 50%, then we lowered by 20%, and that turns out to be 20% more than the original price. Kind of cool. So, okay, we can move on to our next part, B part. A function f is defined so that n is an odd, if n is an odd integer, then fn is n minus 1. And if n is an even integer, then fn is n squared minus 1. And an even squared is even. Subtract 1, it'll make it odd. So for example, if n is 15, f at n is 14. If n is negative 6, an even number, then fn is 6 squared, 36, minus 1 to 35. Determine all integers n for which f of fn is equal to 3. Okay, so it's a written question. First thing I would probably observe, fn is n minus 1, and then also fn is n squared minus 1. Fn is odd if n is even. Fn is even if n is odd. Okay? You could show this in more detail. I think it's clear just to make this observation. I mean, it is question 5 in the contest. But an odd number minus 1 would be an even number. Even squared is even, minus 1 would be odd. That's how you'd explain it if you had to. Okay? Why am I pointing this out? Well, they're talking about f of fn. Now, depending on whether n is even or odd, we'll get different things. So we want this to be equal to, it was 3, right? Yeah, 3. So if n is odd, if we start odd, then fn should be n minus 1. And we know that this is even, so f of n minus 1 should be n minus 1 squared minus 1. So n minus squared minus 1. So we'll get 4 is equal to n minus 1 squared. So plus or minus 2 if you square root is n minus 1. So n is 3, or n is minus 2 plus 1 will be minus 1. And if you want to, you can double check that. And if you minus 1, f of minus 1 would be minus 2. And then you square it, subtract 1, you'll get 3. Okay? So those n's work, and they are odd. If n is even, we have 3 is f of fn. But now that first fn turns into n squared minus 1. And then I know this is odd, so I get n squared minus 2. Add 2 to both sides, I get 5 is equal to n squared. So n is plus or minus root 5. But I'm pretty sure n has to be a positive integer. Determine all integers n, well, the root 5s aren't going to work. And we just make a little comment about that. N is not an integer. Or you could say n must be an integer, whatever it is. But the point is, this doesn't count. So, only n equals 3 and n equals minus 1 will give f of fn equal to 3. Okay. So there we go. That's all we needed to do for B part. So coming up next is going to be question number 6. So I will see you there. Until then, take care and have a wonderful day.